Hey everyone, it's Lauren Schrader. I'm here to bring you a Sylenth1 chord plex tutorial for progressive house. Mainly melodic progressive house, but I'm sure you can find use for this in various types of progressive house, just anywhere that chord plex will be used really. I've already got a project started, um, and since this is for Sylenth, it'll work in any DAW. Um, so I'm gonna open up Sylenth. I'll turn this off. So you want to do an init preset, so go to menu, preset, and hit clear. And then for the voicing, we're going to raise this up to 8 on the first oscillator, and we're going to leave everything else alone. And then we're going to change the oscillator 2 to SAW as well. And bring the voices up to 8, and then we're going to turn the retrig off. So at this point, first off, we'll throw on a low pass before I start showing what it should sound like while I make this. Let's see. So the first thing we need to do now is raise the polyphony up to 16, so it'll sound like this. And then we need to change the amp envelope. I usually just make it completely plucky by having some decay. Anywhere around here will work. I wouldn't go higher than halfway. Probably a quarter at the very smallest, but usually in between a quarter and halfway up. And then a bit of release. Actually, the release is pretty high in conjunction with the decay. So it already sounds plucky. The next thing we can do is add a little bit of detuning. You can add a little bit of detuning, and by a little bit I mean like I just added like 0.5 detuning. I wouldn't go over 1 on the detune value. And you can add a little bit of detuning on this, but I would add even less. Obviously, if you're making more of like a club type track, like Hands Up or whatever, you can add a way more detuning to these plex. But for my specific type of progressive house that I produce, I don't need a detuning because that's not the type of house that I'm making. So the next thing we need to do is lower the cutoff. There's not a set amount to lower it because we're going to be changing it again anyways. We're going to set a mod envelope to cutoff A and B. We're going to raise it a little bit, and then we're going to raise the decay a bit so it sounds like a pluck, so that it shapes the cutoff like a pluck. And maybe I want it to have a little bit more of a tail. That sounds better, and then we'll add even more. And this part you kind of just do it by ear. I wouldn't recommend copying. If you just copy this tutorial, click for click, value for value, and then don't really pay attention as to how this sound got to where it was, then you're not going to learn anything. If you pay attention to how the sound changes as you're changing these knobs and stuff the way that I am, you'll learn how to make your own plex. So I'm going to lower the cutoff even more. Another thing that you can do is add some sustain here. but I don't want to do that. And then the next thing that I like to do, which isn't a requirement, is add a slight pitch modulation. And like I only raise that by 0.4 if you look there whenever I mouse over. And then I'm going to raise it just the slightest bit. So then we can raise the drive on it. And yes, I'm aware that that is extremely loud. Another thing that you can do is send it to a bus, or this would just be a send channel on FL Studio, but it's called different things on different DAWs, with some stereo delay. I really part of the reason, if you look at my channel, you'll see that I used FL Studio for years. Part of the reason that I switched to Logic was because I absolutely love Logic's built-in plugins, including its delay plugin. So here, but if you're on Windows PC, I recommend downloading Bionic Delay. It's a free plugin, and that's probably the best delay plugin on PC. There's also a plugin called Classic Delay, which is free as well. I like that a lot as well. But Bionic Delay if you're on PC, and if you're on Mac and are on Logic Pro, use stereo delay. And that's just kind of how it sounds. Obviously, you're gonna EQ it as you need. Another thing that we can do is throw on some compression. And yeah, you can just, this is a pretty variable sound. You can add other two oscillators if you want to. I think 2 is the optimal amount of oscillators for this sound. But yeah, you can do whatever you want, and remember that you can add sustain to the amp envelope and the cutoff envelope. You don't have to have a pitch envelope. You don't have to compress it as hard as I'm compressing it. I do recommend bringing up the drive just a little bit. And then on the compressor just makes it hit harder and sound even more pluckier. So depending on what you're going for, you might not want as much compression. Now, compression does other things than that too, but that's one of the more audible differences, is that it comes out sounding more plucky. Another thing that compression will do is make it to where you can actually hear the chords playing during your track, but that's just one of the other noticeable differences, that it makes it more plucky. This has been Lauren Schrader. If you have any questions, let me know. I have a Discord for people that want to get live feedback on their tracks and ask questions. The link will be in the description. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike the video if you hate the fact that I don't fucking edit my videos because I'm a lazy ass. And maybe subscribe if you want to catch me streaming almost daily. I plan on doing some drum and bass streams here pretty soon. but I've been pretty focused on house music lately. So yeah, see you guys.